Episode 3 with my Uncle Bill. You guys are going to know him as Billy Headbutts. Uncle Headbutts, introduce yourself.
Well, hello everyone. Yes, in the past, I've been known to administer a headbutt or two. That's where that comes from.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. So you are 11 years older than me, correct?
Yes, I am.
Tell us about where it started at. You're from South Philly, correct?
Yeah, we grew up in South Philly, Italian and English mix, mom and dad, and 7 kids.
7 kids.
Yeah.
7 kids in the 60s and 70s in South Philly.
Yes, 3-bedroom row home in South Philly. 1 bathroom, and we managed to survive.
Tell us a little bit about those early years, like your childhood, middle school, that kind of thing. How was it?
Oh, that was great. But coming from 7 kids, go a little further there, each of my younger siblings would show up at the doorstep. Here's another one we're bringing home. I really got to a point where my brother was brought home, and I said to my mom, "Mom, the house is getting too full. Can't we send them back?"
And then then there was one more after that.
Well, then my sister Dawn showed up,
Yeah.
and of course I said the same thing about her. Then 11 years later, it came around one more time. I says, "Why do we need another one? We just got rid of all the babies." And then David showed up.
Right. So tell everybody how you fit in. My mom is the oldest of the 7, and she was 19 years old when I was born. So, and then there's Susan, who's right below my mom, then you, correct?
Yes, so I'm the third child, the oldest son, and then I have 5 sisters. So 2 sisters are older than me, and 3 sisters are younger than me. And my brother, he's in the middle of my younger sisters. He's like right in the middle of it all. So
Cool.
He's close to being the baby next to last.
Tell us about what it was like in South Philly back then, and growing up, and what you did, those types of things.
Well, we had a lot of free time after homework to go out and play because there were no video games, was no watching TV. It was like make something happen with yourself, and usually that happened with your friends or at the library, wherever we went. We played a lot of stickball, football. We had plenty of opportunity to get out and have fun. We also rode our bikes a lot.
What was like one of your best memories at that time?
All playing ball in the schoolyards because the school wasn't just but a few blocks away. And after school, half a dozen boys like myself be outside and be active. We would go play ball in the schoolyard.
Let's talk about like moving into your teen years. What's Billy like at that point?
At that stage, I was probably Angry Bill. Yeah, things went pretty crazy around the house with all the kids and everything. And me being the oldest son made me a bad guy. I was not so accepting to all the attention everybody else was getting, and I used to make a nuisance of myself. So once my sister Debbie got married, the oldest, she had her son David, and then in my teen years, I actually moved in with my sister and her family, and she took me in with open arms.
Talk about that relationship a little bit between you and your older sister.
Wow, Debbie's 8 years older than me, so by the time I was growing into the young man that was becoming angry, she had some years of experience on me, so she realized how to handle me, get through to me. He was always very loving. I always appreciated that.
So my dad was around. How about him?
Oh, your dad.
How'd that work out, Bill?
Oh, once she started dating him, first I thought, man, he's pretty cool. Drove a motorcycle and smoked cigarettes and had good stories. And I enjoyed our conversation because he was a smart guy back then. But then as, their relationship grew, David also was 8 or 9 years older than me. So he wanted to create a role as my older brother. And that didn't work because I was the oldest in my family.
Right. Yeah.
And Dad wanted to take my spot, and things sometimes got heated. He might have been a recipient of one of those headbutts. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you. I want at least 2 headbutt stories, and you can give that one at a later time if you would like. So tell everybody, what do you remember me as a kid. So you're 11, 12 years old. I come along. What was your impression of me? Just growing up. Just give them an idea.
Oh yeah, you were always around, but luckily for you, you had two families, and as a child, your time was split there. So a lot of times you would be with the Magaldi side, which is your dad's family. Your grandmother, Kathleen, I loved her. I knew her as long as your mother's been part of dad's family.
Yeah,
A wonderful woman. Your grandfather, John, again, same thing. Pop wasn't always around, but he was
yeah,
always working. And then your dad's siblings, they were always wonderful, very accepting. I believe our families melded,
yeah.
and that was a wonderful thing for me. At least I felt melded with the Magaldis.
Right,
I was never felt like a stranger, always welcome in the house. They call me by my name, not hey you.
right.
Always appreciated that. And that was good times. So I did spend a lot of time with you as a child. You probably wouldn't remember any of that. I did change your diapers. I was part of my role because I was of that age where they told me what to do, and I was happy to do that.
I mean, you were probably in and about your life when I started to become like my own person, I guess. So did you see the asshole that I sort of became as a kid?
Yeah. So luckily for me, I got married young and started my own family. And at that point, I kind of focused on that relationship
Yeah,
as opposed to being so involved with my brothers and sisters and the rest of my family, as it were. Not that I was a recluse, but
right.
I wasn't around a lot. And that was the time that you became the man that you're destined to be.
My dad used to call that man an asshole a lot. So, but
Yeah, well, we all shared that love from your dad.
yeah, yeah, we
We
sure
were
did
all assholes.
at some point or other. Um, so let's take a step back, right? So you're getting into high school, you're sort of sowing your oats and finding yourself, and that anger streak comes out. Talk about that a little bit. Why, and how did you work through that?
Oh, it's crazy how this all comes about. And it's the simple truths of life. We are what we learn. And as we get older, that learning experience hopefully turns into wisdom. And then we can pass that on to the next generations. So for me, growing up at that time, Angry Bill came out. My dad was a pretty rough guy, and we didn't always get along because I was the oldest son and he expected a lot from me. And I don't know if I could live up to those expectations. These days, I feel I've surpassed all those expectations because I always wanted to be as good or better than my dad. And at this stage, I think he looks at me from wherever he and is proud of that because I'm proud of who I am. And he was a part of making me who I am,
Right.
even though there was rough times there. You
Yeah,
got to grow from all that.
yeah.
So yeah, that was Angry Bill. I wanted to be a bully, and I didn't want to be bullied, so I kind of bullied back
He, you ever get a headbutt?
more than one. Yeah, Dad and I we tussled. Once I turned 16,
Yeah,
there was no more pushing me around.
yeah.
I had hit 16, and at that stage, I was big enough to stand up for myself.
It's just so anybody who's listening to this podcast knows that Uncle Bill and I didn't really talk for, I mean, weren't really very close for a long time because he's raising a family. I'm growing up. I go away to school, but we have always, in some ways, been sort of kindred spirits because our paths have sort of aligned in many ways. And I'm probably, 15 years below his wisdom because it takes me a while. But our story is many. His is a little bit rougher, but it aligned in the same kind of way. So let's move on. Like talk about you leave the house. You meet your wife. When did you meet her?
Oh, I met my wife when I was 15. Group of friends hanging out, and she showed up one afternoon, and I guess when my first look at her, I knew our paths were going to go together.
Yeah,
It took a while for me to reach out and connect with her because she was already dating,
Mm,
and we were all friends, so it wasn't like I was trying to steal her away.
right.
But when opportunity presented itself, yeah, here I am.
And you guys got married. How old were you?
Oh, we got married very young. Year was 1983. So we'll let you do the math.
Got it. Tell me about those, like, in your 20s. What are you doing in your 20s?
Oh, at that point, we had our daughter, and my wife, she started working right out of high school. So we both had jobs, and we had good family support from my wife's family with babysitting obligations. So we were able to, start to build a nest egg. We lived in a house that her grandmother owned, so we were very lucky in that respect to have a economical rent fee, and it was close to the family. So it was a nice time. We were involved, you know, with working and close with my wife's mother and father and grandparents.
You talked a little bit earlier about you kind of stepping away from your family for a while and focusing on that relationship with your wife and your daughter. And um, I know that from seeing that, I benefited from that in my life, and I just thought that anybody listening might that type of advice maybe to talk about that and why that helped.
So I think it's again back to simple truths. If you want to make something work, you have to work at it. And when you are pulled in too many directions from extenuating circumstances beyond your control, it diminishes your capabilities to complete the task at hand. My task at hand was having a family that was taken care of and protected, and we had a roof over our head and food to eat, and the bills were paid, and we were happy with that. And to get involved with unnecessary dramas would have diminished that. So I took myself away from all that unnecessary drama, and we'll call it like a sabbatical. I mean, sometimes you just need to change your environment a little bit to make things different. We all need to decide that for ourselves.
Yeah. So you're in your 20s. You're raising a young daughter. You get into your 30s. How's it going at that point? What are you up to? Any crazy stories?
Oh, and in my 30s, yeah. So it turned into a workaholic. That stage, I was in my electrical career. Started that in 1990, and I was 25. So it's kind of late for an electrician to start understanding how electric works, but for me, it worked. And I had been doing electric for 5 or 6 or 8 years, whatever, and side work was an amazing time in my life. When people find out you're an electrician, everybody wants to be your friend. They all need an outlet or a ceiling fan or their lights don't work. And I met a guy in school, Bob Nafee, turned out to be my best friend I ever had. And he did side work every day after work because his family and contacts, my family and contacts, we were always busy.
Yeah. Nice.
So that was a good time. Saved a lot of money.
And you were able. When did you move over to New Jersey? What year was that?
That was around that time, the early 90s, 93, 94. Things were looking good, As I said, just like relationships, work. If you have a job, a career, and you love what you do, it's not like work because you can enjoy the moments that you're involved in it, be in the moment.
Give us up to date. What's last 5 or 10 years? What is going on, and where are you at now?
Oh, right now. So 5 years. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm an electrician. I'm a brother, and I'm a mentor. That's who I am these days, in that order. And that's how I live my life each day to the best of my ability. Start off with appreciating small things in life. I have a decent job. I get up every day and I'm happy to go to work to do the best I can. My family, I want to treat them all with respect and love. And I hope they can reciprocate with that. And I'm a blessed individual over the last 5 years, be able to enjoy this moment right here with my favorite nephew.
Wow. Almost favorite. Almost favorite right now because I'm here. But no,
He learned that because I call his mother my favorite every time. It's only me and her in the room.
it's great. What are you focused on? What do you care about?
Oh, that last part, mentor. I feel that God has given me and blessed me with so much ability and knowledge in my life that it has to be shared with anybody who wants to be a part of spending time with me. That's what I want to do from this point forward. I have too many experiences that I'd love to share, knowledge, wisdom.
It starts with those two grandkids.
Well, no, no. It starts with my daughter.
Ah,
It starts
fair
with
enough.
my wife. I mean,
Yeah,
it's everybody. It's all inclusive.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it starts now. Certainly, my boys, my grandsons. I'm spending a lot of time with them, enjoying helping them develop into young men with respect and power and knowledge,
Yeah.
and hopefully in the future wisdom, because you can't get wisdom without knowledge, and they're working on that because they're so young.
Tell me about. So let's talk about hobbies. I know you love to fish. What is it about fishing that draws you to it?
Oh, in the beginning, it was the solitude. I started off fishing in a kayak, and you do that by yourself usually, especially my kayak because it's a one-person kayak by design. That was a lot of fun. Spent a lot of hours in lakes, different, you know, natural environments, up in the creeks, and fishing, catching a fish, releasing a fish. That also was spurred from an earlier years when I would go out in the bays in the ocean with my uncles. And so fishing has always been a part of my life from a very early age. These days, I like to get out on the water and enjoy catching a fish. I like the ocean fishing. Sometimes I bring home dinner. Been blessed in that respect.
Let's talk about the headbutts.
Oh, headbutts. Well, my grandmother, I love her to forever. She took me at an early age to Atlantic City to go see wrestling. I was about 7 or 8 years old. We went to the Atlantic City Convention Center and I saw Andre the Giant, my very first wrestling match. And Andre the Giant was famous for his headbutt. And he performed that move on several opponents that night. And I thought, man, this guy has it in control. So we leave, and that's the end of that. So it's many years later, we continue to watch wrestling on television, and I got to see how the headbutt actually worked. And I thought, man, I got a pretty hard head, so let's see how hard this person's head is. So that's how it all came about. I wanted to test to see how hard my head was against somebody else's head.
Do you do you have any tips for anybody who wants to go down the headbutt route as a self defense tactic?
Yes, you have to be ready uh, as the aggressor, and you got to follow through with it all the way. Because once that person realizes a headbutt's coming, there's defensive moves against it. So it's like a sneak attack. There's no doubt about that. But if you feel endangered and you're in proximity for that, the technique is pretty simple, and the follow through has to be solid. And I think pretty much you're going to put that person out on that one blow because nobody is ready for it if they're not ready for
Yeah. Is there any special technique that you
it.
use?
Oh,
Really, I'm for my own edification, for my own understanding. I want
yeah.
to know.
Yes. Okay. So, usually you got a face to face confrontation going on,
Yeah.
and the spit is flying, and who's going to punch who first is what each guy's thinking. So at that point, both your hands are next to your side because you're face to face, but you don't want to act like you want to punch somebody. So your hands are at your side. And then just that quick, your hands go up, grab the hair on the back of the opponent's head and pull his head into your head. The only thing is, your forehead goes into his nose and his face. And don't hit him in the forehead because that's how you find out you both get concussions. Uh, if you hit him in the soft cartilage of the nose, between the eyes, in an eye socket, that person's going down.
So I don't know if any of you out there go to self defense school. Nobody teaches that. That's fucking Uncle Bill expertise right there. And I've seen that shit work live. So any any of that, I need at least two headbutt stories, please.
Oh,
Two.
the very first one. I'm 16 years old. My dad came home from school and he started giving me a rash of shit. He was drunk, unfortunately for him. Uh, he grabbed me and he said, I'm going to whip your ass. And I looked at him right in the eyes, and there we were, face to face, just as I'm saying. And I said, today, Dad, it's not going to happen. And he says, oh, you think you're tough. And as he said that, I grabbed his head, as I explained, and smashed his forehead. I didn't smash him in the nose. I pulled his head down and smashed his forehead. Well, he fell backwards as soon as I let him go onto his ass. And I looked at him and I said, if you want to get up and try this again, that would be a mistake. And then I left the room because I didn't want it to go any further. But yeah, that was my very first one. So Dad got away without broken nose.
It's a good one.
Dad got away with that one because I loved him. I didn't really hurt him.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make my point. My head's harder than yours.
I th- I think you made your point.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was another time. My brother-in-law Richie. I love my brother-in-law Richie. Again, my older sister Susan, closest to me in age above me. So her husband, he wanted to be my big brother too. All these guys coming in thinking they're going to take my place. He put me in a bear hug one day. So there we were face to face. And he says, what do you think you're going to do now? So I took my arms, I slipped them outside his arms and wrapped my arms around his arms. So now I have his arms pinned against my chest. And there we are, close, face to face. I could have kissed him, but instead I headbutted him.
Uh,
And
Rich.
again, I left go of his arms, and he fell on his ass right there. And my sister Susan, she went crazy. She started punching me and hitting me. How dare you come in my house and head my husband?
And my husband.
And I said, well, I'm really sorry about that. And then again, I excused myself from the premises.
uh,
God bless Richie. He took it like a man.
a man on his ass. Yeah. Oh, Rich, shout out, buddy. We love you, but shit, everybody takes an L every once in a while. I saw you do one at your sister's house. One of your sister's boyfriends tried to get in the middle of a family argument, and you tried to warn him, and he wasn't listening, and he got a big tough chest. Oh God! And everybody's just trying to get him out of the fucking house because we all knew it was coming. And he got it, and he went down to a knee, and he got back up, and he started trying to act tough as he was like he had like the stanky leg, like he straight concussed.
Wow.
Look,
Yeah.
you're lucky there's all of you here, he said, as he couldn't even stand up straight.
Yeah. Everybody's a tough guy when
Yeah,
until they know. I'm not
yeah,
a tough guy. I never want to be a tough guy.
yeah.
Uh, that is not what I want to ever portray
Right.
because violence begets violence.
Yeah.
And provocation comes to play in that. But again, as I said, wisdom,
Right.
that comes into play as you get older. And these days I'm older.
Yeah.
I'm not old, but I'm older. And that's why I want to try to mentor more um, to the younger generation because we need the next generations to step up.
Yeah.
and to be right and to be true to themselves and to not let people bully them or, think that they're an easy target. I never want to be the victim.
Yeah.
So that's how I live my life.
You talk a lot about relationships and how important they are. Let's go through that. Like, what is it like being Uncle Bill's wife? What do you think she would say?
Wow, that's amazing. So my wife and I, we've been together since we're 15 years old.
Yeah.
We are about to have our 40th wedding anniversary this year. So she could have a whole lot to say about being my wife. But what I will say is that I married a woman who cares for me unconditionally, who looks out for my well being, who is there for me each and every moment of each and every day, whether we're together or thousands of miles apart. There have been those times. I, I'm going to tell you a real quick story.
Yeah, man.
Last night, I went outside to my truck and I turned on my iPod and a song came up by George Harrison. And the title is called If Not For You. And I was going to make a phone call. That's why I went out into the truck. It's one of my like phone booth places.
Yeah, yeah,
We all just want a little privacy.
yeah.
And that song was on and it played. Halfway in the song, I made my phone call, went through that. And after the phone call was over, the song finished out. And I sat and I listened to that song. And when I went back into the house, I walked up to my wife and I said, honey, simple truths of it all come to me at the strangest moments. I said, if not for you, the winter would hold no spring. And that's one of the lines that come from the song. And she looked at me because she knows the song
Yeah.
and she starts singing a few more lines, which was amazing
That's
for
awesome.
me.
Awesome.
And that's how I feel in my life about her. I would hope she feels the same.
Uh, I'm sure she does. What's your advice to young men and dealing with their wives or future wives?
Oh, it's all about respect, really is. Relationships require work. So it's like anything in life that is worth having. And that's, again, a simple truth. If you earn it, you appreciate it. If it's given to you, not so much. Easy come, easy go. That's our society these days. Everything is disposable. For me, nothing is disposable. It's all recyclable. It's all reconditionable. People do carpentry work and they get these old barns with all this 1,000-year-old wood and they repurpose it. And it's just a mentality that things are not disposable. So as relationships go, young men out there treat women with respect. And when you look at a girl and she's a beautiful girl and you start to get those boy thoughts, you know what? She has a mom, she has a grandmom. She could be somebody's mom or grandmom or sister. Everybody comes from a family, and that's where the respect has to begin back with the family and work at relationships. Don't take them for granted.
What was it like being your parent?
Oh, that was a struggle that went on from the time I was born. They tell me I was a colic baby. And if anybody who knows what colic is, it's a gas. And whatever they were feeding me, it made me fart and it made my belly hurt. And I cried, they tell me, for probably 4 or 5 months. My mother, my father, my grandmother, my two older sisters, Debbie and Susan, all took turns carrying me because it's the only thing that would make me shut up. So, yeah, it started off early. I never shut up. As you can tell, I like to talk, I like to share stories. It's gotten a little quieter these days. I don't cry as much. Yeah, me growing up, I was a handful, and it took a lot. I take a lot after my dad. He's just an individual that follows their own path.
Yeah.
And as I look back at my father and, I think about all the things I didn't want to be like him, I see that I am like him. Uh, and at this stage in my life, I can appreciate that being like him is good for me, as it was good for him, however that played out.
Right.
And yeah, mom, she had her hands full, and me, they called me the instigator. I'd get the house all riled up.
So if you had advice for 18-year-old you, what advice would you give him?
I wish I learned earlier on that the simple truths are what matter most. And I learned that as I got older because it just goes back to when you're a kid, you understand things so much easier than once you're an adult because society changes the way our perception is about almost everything. We know we're born with the understanding of what is good, what is evil, what is what feels good, what makes us sad. We understand these things. Embedded in our DNA. If you want to be a scientist,
Yeah.
maybe someday they'll find it, whatever. But they'll try to manipulate, and that's what I'm getting at. The society is trying to manipulate us into being sheep, and what we need to be are shepherds. We need to gather unto us flocks of people of like mind and appreciate diversity. Uh, we can all look different, be different, and pray different, but we can still get along and appreciate our differences.
What do you think that your 18-year-old self would think of you?
He would definitely be proud because that's what I am. I'm proud. I know who I am. I know where I fit in this earth and my future. Minutes are precious to me. So yeah, just proud to be where I am at this stage. If I was able to look in the mirror and see me at shoot, 50 years later, 40 years later, I think I'd be happy with the
Yeah.
vision that I look back on. I look in the mirror each day and I don't have to look away because I'm proud of what I'm going to do today.
You've had a lot of bosses in your life. What's it like to be your boss?
Again, it's called personality. I don't know. I guess it's been called alpha personality.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. I don't take direction very well. I uh, I have a plan, and my plan has been developed over many years, and that's in everything I do, whether it's fishing or electricity or carpentry, whatever it is. Be my boss, yeah, it would be a difficult task. Give me a task and walk away, we'll get along just fine. Micromanage me, I'm going to be taking a shit every half hour because I just don't want to be around you. I know what to do. I know
Yeah.
my focus.
I guess that would be my next question is what is your advice to the bosses of the world and just a general piece of advice?
Let people experience opportunities without micromanagement. Sometimes the best lessons learned are the lessons learned harder
Yeah.
because they're the ones that you remember. If everything comes too easy, it's lost. It's back to being sheep. Do what you're told and you'll get along just fine. Uh, Question it a little bit. It's okay to question it. Question everything until you have the right answers. And then you can have your own plan and you can be the shepherd. You can be the one to call the flock and say, hey, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it.
Right. And I just from my perspective and having a lot of bosses in my life, it's people that micromanage. You have to be better at hiring, right? Or if you're going to hire somebody, you have to trust that they're going to do the job, or teach them to do the job. Otherwise, you're wasting your goddamn time, and you drive. Bill, Uncle Bill, and I had were similar. I have a hard time with being micromanaged, and have jumped many jobs because people don't trust what I'm doing, and I know that I'm good at it, and so I just move on. I just, I'm fucking done with it. I had enough of you, and we don't have to have that conversation anymore. If you know, if you want a professional, then hire me. If not, go find somebody to be your lack. That's the way. That's my perspective
They
on it.
wanted a sheep, and you are a shepherd.
Correct. And I'm finally okay with saying it. It's taken a long
It
time just to be there.
That's wisdom, David. It's finally you're seeing it. That's the benefit of experience.
How about being Billy Headbutt's friend? What's it like being your friend?
My friends, I have few friends because it's hard to get into my inner circle. I enjoy spending time alone, which is I don't think it's weird. I think it's some of my most inspirational time. So to be my friend, you got to be able to be quiet and appreciate the moments. I've had some really good friends in my life, and I spoke earlier of Bob. He was my best friend for a long time, and Bob was killed by a drunk driver. So I lost him in a heartbeat, and I don't know that there's anybody that would ever take that place, But how could anybody take that place? Bob was unique. We hit it off the moment we met, like David and I, kindred spirits. We thought the same. We acted the same. He was an electrician. We had that. That was the original connection, but it went so much deeper than that. So yeah, to be my friend, loyalty. I mean, honesty. Just the simple truths of life. That's how you're my friend. I don't want somebody that's going to try to bullshit me or not be true in their intentions.
How about being your child? What would Anna Banana say about you?
These days, she'd say, I love my daddy.
yeah.
No doubt about it. I only have one child. Been blessed to have a child who has provided me with my two grandsons. But growing up, yeah, she'd had a different perspective. I was not an easy dad. I, again, you have to work at things. And I knew it then as she was growing up. And I tried to instill in her, and I believe I succeeded, that you have to work hard for everything for it to mean something. When it's just given to you, it's easy come, easy go. And it's no way to live your life. Anything worth having is worth working for. And she appreciates that these days. We have a very good relationship.
How about for me? How about your nephew? Any advice for me?
Oh, my nephew. Yes, continue to be your own man, just like you have always done, and continue to develop our relationship at this stage in our lives
Yeah.
with me, because I have loved the last few years having you closer in my life. We don't talk every day. We
Right.
don't have to talk every day.
Right. No.
The connection is closer than that,
Yeah.
But spending time with you and your family makes me happy. And if I can help to mentor your boys in any way, I would love to do that.
Can,
That includes you.
can you teach him how to do the atomic wedgie?
We could teach them that, but it probably would be detrimental to whoever they give them to. Oh my goodness, boy,
All right.
it makes people cry.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit before I get into my 20 questions. I don't think we can have a podcast and tell people about you if we don't talk a little bit about the relationship between me, you, and your younger brother, and sort of that fucking bizarre connection that we all have with each other, which you know, in other circumstances may have ended up of all of us hating each other, but we love each other so goddamn much. But you're the big brother. You're really my bigger brother, right? Because I've said this when I did my podcast that I'm the youngest of really I'm the eighth one in one side of the family, and the sixth one or seventh one in the other side of the family. Everybody was so young that I was just sort of like the next younger brother. Uh, so let's talk about that. Your relationship with him and sort of how that connected us.
Yeah, so that it's so great like that. And as David put that, he was definitely the eighth child in my family. When he came on board, I mean, yeah, I mentioned earlier, I did change his diapers because it had to get done.
Yeah,
We had one tub. We all got baths. The boys would get baths together, the girls would get baths together. You had to get it done. And David was in that mix. So here I am, 11 years old. My brother John is 5 years younger than me, so he's six. And then David's born. So, he's the infant at the time. So as the couple years go by, we all continue to move forward. So I'm a teenager now when David's 5 years old. I'm 15, 16, and John's 10 years old, or 11 years old. So that 5 year difference between the three of us, 5, 6 years, it it just was brutal on on the next kid younger because I'll be honest, I look back on those days and yeah, my dad was rough on me and I know I took it out on my brother because my dad always favored my brother in my mind. I don't know that he did, but somehow in my twisted mind, I thought Johnny was more special than me.
yeah,
So I tortured him and boy, it was tough. The atomic wedgie. Poor John. I mean, I literally ripped the underwear off of him. He was wearing pants at the time, too. So I reached in and I only grabbed the underwear and I pulled so hard that I ripped them off his ass.
yeah,
And I'm sure it bruised him. To say the very least, probably was traumatic at the time.
yeah.
I mean, to have your underwear ripped by your big brother. Oh, man.
I
The
don't
atomic wedgie. Yep.
I
That's how
can't
it happened.
I can't tell you how he feels, but I can tell you how I felt the day after when he came and did it to me. So, um, but again, Johnny wasn't terrible to me. Listen, I was a tough kid growing up, and it had a lot to do with we wrestled all the time, and
Right.
I lost brutally all the fucking time. I remember the first time that I did not lose, and I was maybe 19 or 20 years old, and I had been watching UFC, and Johnny hadn't been watching UFC yet, and I put him in a fucking triangle choke, which was one of my greatest days of my life. So, and I know he has that story about you and the day that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But listen, we all love each other very much, and it's just funny. But my problem is I never had anybody to do it to except for
No, because then there was that period of time when there
yeah,
was nothing but girls born into the
yeah,
family.
right. Well, and then everybody was so much goddamn younger. So
Right,
yeah,
right,
my sister and I guess Susan's daughter Ruth are the closest ones, and they're 6 years, five and a half years younger than me.
right.
And then we didn't have a boy until
Until Johnny, until
yeah,
until Johnny.
till Johnny's kids, yeah.
Right,
And
Johnny and Robert.
I was a teenager by then, so I guess that would be like.
Right. It wasn't the 5 year gap that we had or 6 years.
Although I did suplex my sister a few times for other reasons. I'm sorry, Teresa. I love you
Yes,
very much. I'm sorry.
yes.
All right.
I think that part of what we shared was character building
Yeah.
in in its worst form,
Yep.
really.
Right. It was.
But it taught us to take a licking and get back up
Right.
and try again. And ultimately, you succeeded in, you know, taking John down with that
Yeah.
triangle choke. That was an amazing day for you.
I
Just like when John took me out the
yeah.
first time. There's always a stage when the younger generation comes up. Yeah, for a long time I was on top, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I'm getting a little slower now, and yeah, I don't think I would be messing with John or you these days.
Um. Yeah. And I think just to just to put a little bit of ease on it. I mean, we also knew that we loved each other, and that we would, if anybody else tried it, it wasn't
Oh,
gonna
nobody else could try it.
right,
No, no.
right,
You're my family. You're my blood.
right. I
I
get to
mean,
beat the shit out of you.
right. And that's to teach you how to beat the shit out of somebody else
Yeah,
trying to want to beat the shit out of you.
yeah,
It's those experiences that sometimes have a positive feedback somewhere down the
yeah,
Not saying that it's right when it's going on,
right.
because I'm not saying that. I don't believe in abuse,
Yeah, yeah,
but I don't also believe in petting a puppy because they did wrong.
right,
You know,
right.
uh,
There are consequences,
there are
and there are
consequences.
standards, right? There should be.
Yes.
And when a dude deserves to get punched in the fucking mouth, he probably deserves to get punched in the fucking mouth. And we shouldn't go to jail for that necessarily,
No, no.
but we are where we are.
And we accept the responsibility of our actions
Yep.
as men.
Yes.
I know who I am. I know what I can get away with, and I know the consequences of my actions.
That's right.
So there ain't no confusion
All right. All right. Here we go.
here. Here we are.
All right. 20 questions.
Yeah.
Question number one: what makes you angry? It's Angry Dave podcast. I got to know what makes you angry.
What makes me angry are drivers that think they own the road. Yes. Weavers. People that cut out everybody. If there's a half a car length between you and the next guy, they want in.
Are you still screaming at him?
I do. I yell out the window. I beep my horn. I flash them the bird. I let them know because I drive a big black pickup truck and they're cutting me out. It ain't like they don't see me. And I let them know that I see what they're up to. And so far, I ain't had no road ragers, but maybe who knows?
You might have to pull out a headbutt.
I might have to pull out a headbutt.
Tell me about what makes you happy.
So many things. My wife, my family.
Tell me about a time you shit yourself.
Whoa, that was
Yeah.
a messy ride.
Yeah.
Got to be honest. If we're going to talk about it, I
Yeah.
was I was working out in Asbury Park, and I was driving a Oldsmobile Cutlass or Buick Cutlass. It was a used car, and I was doing some painting work. It was back. I was in my early 20s, and Asbury Park was like a 2 hour ride into South Philly, and it was construction work. We didn't have no bathrooms. There might have been a porta potty, whatever. I'm on the drive home. Halfway home, all of a sudden I farted. No, I didn't. I shit my pants right there doing 70 miles an hour down the highway. I said, "Oh boy, what are we going to do now?" Put my turn signal on, pulled into the into the shoulder, climbed around to the passenger side, opened up the door, dropped my pants and my underwear right there, looked in the back, found a towel, tried to wipe myself up as best I could, and I don't know. I think I found a bathing suit in the back of the truck or back of the car, the back seat, and I put that on right there on the side of the road, and then drove home with a shitty ass.
Wait, you had your bare ass naked on the side of the road?
On the side of the road. Yeah, I opened the doors to the
Right,
car,
right,
so I
right,
was like in
right,
between the doors.
right,
So kind of might have looked like I was taking a pee or I
right,
was,
right. Still indecent exposure, but
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh yeah, if a cop would have pulled me over, I'd have been in jail.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
with a shitty ass.
Uh, tell me about the best advice you ever received.
I think I'm still waiting on that. I really am. I mean,
I'll let you think about it.
I'm going to come back to that one. Yeah, because
I'll let you think about it. I'm just going to share what I have said is, I have some advice that my high school baseball coach gave me, but growing up in our family, and particularly my father and my grandfather, who were really, the older people in my life, it wasn't an advice giving family. It just wasn't. We, it was often, I'll tell you the 17 ways this thing can go wrong, but I never felt that they were actually telling me or giving me an idea of how to do something or a road to take. My dad would often say, "What are you going to ask me for advice for? Don't basically don't do what I did." That's my advice is don't do what I did, and my grandfather's advice was do better. That's not real helpful, right? But I understand where that comes from, but it was something that I know you try to be a mentor now and give advice all the time, and I appreciate that about you, and I'm trying to do that with my kids and with people in my life, just because I I I think anybody benefits from information, right? Even if you don't take the advice, it's good just to have the information. So I don't know how you feel about that.
No, that's it. It it hits home for me. After thinking for a moment as you were speaking, I'm going to look back on an individual who I didn't like. He was a foreman for the company I worked for. He wanted me fired after the first week because he said this guy's never going to be, the kind of guy we need for the company. And the boss felt differently, so he gave me a second chance. But I continued to work with the foreman and on other jobs. And I look back on his advice the one day. I was overwhelmed with the project that we were working on together, and his advice was me to me was break it down simple and follow through. And it just stuck to don't overanalyze the big picture, focus on your moments, and that's where things come together. Because if you're thinking about the future or the past, you're not focused in the task at hand. You'll never be able to complete your project, whatever that project may be.
Yeah. What about the worst advice? Any really terrible advice?
Terrible advice. Yeah, I don't listen to that. I was taught a long time ago, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, and you'll do okay. So, yeah, I mean, that advice from Lenny Giuliani. I will say his name because I never hated him, didn't get along with him, but he had good advice for me, and it held true in a lot of days for me.
How about the most unreasonable thing about Billy Headbutts?
I don't like to be cold, but that is a fact. I want to be sweating all the time. And in the wintertime, anybody who's around me gets so mad because I got the heat cranking. I'm overdressed. And yeah, that is the most unreasonable thing that I deal with is being cold.
What are you most proud of?
What I am most proud of
Perfect.
is the relationship that I have with my wife. That really is top of all the charts. Yep.
All right. A very important question. There was a first person who milked a cow, right?
Yes.
What was that first person up to when they were first trying to milk the cow? What were they really doing?
Is this a riddle?
No.
What
What
were they doing? Okay. So,
what do you think?
first person that milked the cow knew what they were doing. They didn't milk the cow by accident because necessity is the mother of invention. God created all these animals, including us. I'm not saying that part of the chain, but we can be. So here it is. The first human that milked the cow for the milk because it saw that the babies went right for the tit and all of a sudden they got bigger. Listen, human beings, they see what goes on around. They know what they were doing.
That's the fucking nicest answer anybody's going to have. That's adorable. An adorable answer. I mean, my answer was that he was a pervert, but
Well, yeah, but you want to jerk the cow off, but you wouldn't grab the tit to jerk him off. You grab the cock, and now you're going after the bull, not the cow.
yeah, fair.
It is the mother of necessity, though.
All
I
right,
mean,
Bill.
this is why we milk cows.
All right, Uncle Bill. You believe in humanity. That's
No, I believe in nature.
give me number nine. Something that you thought was true, but actually turned out to be a ridiculous notion. Anything?
Yeah, I'm at a loss because through the wisdom I've gained in all these years,
Yeah,
I question everything. So I was a doubting Thomas growing up.
yeah.
So, I mean, you could tell me the sky was blue, and I'd have to see 100 variations of the color blue to agree with you.
Yeah.
uh, just because I wanted to debate. Love to debate. So yeah, I would say that there is nothing that I thought was true that I found out was not true because
All
I'm
right.
questioning everything.
What I said was what my buddy Matt, when we start first talking about sex, he told me that Asian vagina was sideways, and and
And you believed them,
I
right?
believed him for a few years, and then
I actually used that on a kid who believed it too. He was a couple years older than you, but yeah, yeah, no, I never believed that myth.
oh, good. I actually in first grade, I told a bunch of kids in grade school that I was a special agent midget brought brought to uh, brought to the school to follow up on like the drug abuse in the grade school, and they they
And
believe
they believed.
they believe it. Yeah.
I was, yeah, I was never that smart.
All right. What's most important to you? Number 10.
Most important to me is enjoying the moment. I mean, that's where it's at. I mean, I've said that too many times probably already, but
Yeah.
it's the simple things that are what make everything happen. If you're not in the moment, where are you? You're nowhere. You're in your own mind. And that's not to say you're nowhere, but
Yeah.
you're not focused in what is happening at the moment because all we have is this moment.
So that brings me to uh, a question to sort of like off the grid here, but um, what are your thoughts about people on their phones?
I wish that cell phones went away. I really do. This technology error that we are living in is detrimental to the human race. And we are buying into it on a scale that is unparalleled. We think that putting an electronic device up against our head or in our hands has no effect on the human body. But what we're witnessing is a lot of side effects that nobody wants to talk about with this technology and the dangers of it all. I wish cell phones went away. Uh, Drivers would be safer not being able to text or be distracted in those moments.
Yeah, they would certainly be able to be in the moment more, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah, no
Um,
doubt.
how about number 11? If you ever got arrested, what would your wife think happened if she didn't know?
The cops found my knives that are in the truck and they think I'm a serial killer. I don't know. I have a couple hunting knives that I keep just for emergency reasons.
Uh,
It's not illegal to own a hunting knife.
uh, your your nephew would think that you probably got in a road rage and you headbutted somebody. That would be my answer to that question for you.
He might think that too. That's a good one. But that's what I would think. You know, cop pulled me over and searched me down tight. He'd find them knives because they're buried. I mean, they're in bags, safe, but I know where they're at.
Number 12, what is your favorite type of pornography?
Male, female. Ah, keep all that other stuff.
One on one?
Well, as long as it's male and female,
Yeah.
one on one. Okay.
Mm,
We don't like to get jiggy with the jiggy.
I got you. Number 13, what's an everyday struggle? Something you struggle with like on a daily basis.
Trying to be the best I can be. That's the struggle, but that's in the moment. And remembering to be the best I can be. That's the struggle I deal with. Everything else comes together because I have no control except for me.
How about number 14? If you had a choice between being naked in public for 8 hours or having thought bubbles appear above your head for 1 week every time you had a thought, what would you choose?
Oh, I would probably go for the nakedness. I live at the beach now, and I never want clothes on. Hardly want to wear a bathing suit. Maybe Brigantine's going to go nude. I don't know. We'll see if we can get a petition going. Next year's polar plunge.
Yes,
We'll be
sir.
skinny dipping. I might get arrested.
Yeah. Number 15. Have you ever been caught having sex or caught one of your parents having sex?
Yes, and yes.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Oh, my. Good laughs going on here. Yeah, my wife and I, we were married. We had a four-door car, and we went out with a bunch of family members for dinner. And we were all at the restaurant. Parking lot was full when we parked. And after the restaurant, we came out to the car and we got a little frisky in the back seat and fogged up the windows. And next thing I know, there's a pounding on the window. And it was my wife's father.
Uh, oh, Jesus.
Needless to say, he couldn't see anything going on because the fog was quite thick on the windows. But he knew we were in there. Doors were locked. Yeah, I made sure my honey was safe. Yeah, and then, shoo, boy, traumatic experience. I was a teenager. My mom and dad had just got divorced. A couple years, they were done. Mom had, she had a boyfriend, Joe. Yeah, Joe.
Oh,
He knew what was going on. I was an afternooner.
oh,
I came home after school. I guess I was a few minutes early and went upstairs. Didn't realize what was going on and opened the door. And yeah, can't burn that out of my brain. I love you, mommy.
yeah. Rest in peace. Missionary?
It was. Yes, it
All right.
was. Mom was a simple girl.
Yeah, yeah. Joe was a big guy too, and she was not a big lady.
Thanks for bringing that
Yeah.
vision back.
I got a story about Joe real quick. Just I couldn't fucking stand the guy, and I was a kid, right? But he used to try to make me call him God. Do you remember that shit?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
fucking hated him.
Joe was so full of himself.
Yeah,
That was the stage when your mom opened her arms and her home and her family to me
yeah,
when Joe was involved with my mom.
yeah,
Because, again, you know, I didn't get along with other alphas
yeah,
because I was the alpha
yeah,
in my own mind.
yeah. And then he tried it. He tried it with Johnny. That didn't work out. He wound up coming over to us too, and
Yeah, I know.
and then he tried it a little bit with me. But I never had to live with him, so it was not.
Right, right. Yeah, Joe never did really have much time for him.
Anyway, I'll not say bad things. Moving on. Most embarrassing fart or pee story. You like basically told us the fart story already. How about a pee story? Any pee stories where you pissed yourself in public? I have.
Nah, I'm pretty good with that. All that.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah. I mean, farting stories. I got a really good,
Yeah, give me.
and I'm not going to elude back to the one you're thinking of.
Yeah,
So I'm about 30 years old, and I'm running a job, electrician, and it was a commercial kitchen, and we had every contractor out there, carpenters, plumbers, painters, ceiling tile guys. The room was full of contractors. My partner and I show up, and we're going to install lights this. So we get our 6 foot ladders, and we're working up in the ceiling grid, and I farted. I looked down. My helper, who was handing me the lights, he looked at me because I had farted in his presence past, and he was like, "Dude, I don't know if I could stay in here." And I said, "Give me another light." He handed me up another light. I put it in the ceiling. I looked around, and the entire room was empty, including my helper. I cleared a room of 15 men with one fart.
that's
And
impressive.
needless to say, they didn't like me for the rest of the day. I had to leave the room and go take care of that because after visiting the men's room for a few minutes, all that went away. Anyway, Yeah, that was a uneventful story.
What's your favorite curse word and why?
That is so difficult for me because that is one of my daily struggles
Yeah.
because I love conversation and every curse word that I use diminishes my point. So I would say my favorite curse word is going to be damn. That's my favorite. Damn. Because I shouldn't be saying damn. But yeah, all the rest of them, yeah, I try to avoid them.
Yeah. I
It
love
diminishes me. But
yeah.
go ahead, tell me your favorite because you
No,
got one.
I've got 1,000 of them, and I actually make them up. I love them so much. So I try to incorporate as much cursing as possible. I've given up on trying to be a better person in that regard, and I include it in my professional life at this point because I give zero fucks at this point. Um,
And that's okay.
uh, thank you,
Listen, we have to be true to ourselves and our own beliefs like that. And that's what makes you the man that you are
thank you,
because
Uncle.
you're willing to accept who you want to be, as I am in a different manner with the cursing part.
Yeah,
I just don't want to portray myself
yeah,
as somebody who needs curses to express their true feelings.
I
Because I
understand.
think the cursing part actually takes away from the intent that
No,
you're trying to put forward. It helps with the angriness, though, and I do get that.
yeah,
I have going on my rant, David.
yeah,
Motherfucking cocksucking son of a bitch.
yeah.
That would have been my favorite phrase. Motherfucking cocksucking son of a bitch. That would have been the one I would have called you in a road rage kind of thing.
I, I I blame your brother for my affinity for cursing because he's wonderful. He likes the jit a lot. So he likes jit stain, jit bag.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He learned that from me,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
cum
I
stain.
used
He,
I
he's a
used
he's a big stain
I
guy.
used I used to call him that. That's where he gets it from. Oh, poor Johnny. Last one about him.
Shout out.
I once said to him, Johnny, the best part of you rolled down your father's leg. And he
Well,
looked at me and I don't think he got it. He was probably 3 or 4.
well, it's funny. I know where you got that from.
Where did I get that from? Your father?
Yes, you did, Bill. My dad said that in front of my fucking friends at like 12 years old. I was arguing with him or something in front of my friends, and he's like, "The best part of you ran down your mother's leg." So you know,
Well, thank you, David Senior. Thank you, David.
I mean,
Shout out to him. I love you too,
I,
David.
I
I
miss,
think about your dad all.
yeah, I miss him. I don't miss him sometimes, but I miss him most of it. All right, 12-inch penis, but you have to be 200 pounds overweight, or a tiny little pecker, but you get always to be ripped. What would you choose?
Seeing as I'm in the middle, I'm going to go to one extreme. I'm going to say ripped and short. Needle dick. Yeah. Listen, if the girls really want it, the girls really want
Yeah.
it.
I agree. I agree with you on that. I believe you're correct. That is the correct answer.
200 pounds overweight. I ain't got nothing going on.
Yeah.
Shoot.
You won't.
I can't even get up and wipe from under.
All right. Two more questions, both fairly reasonable. What do you want people to remember about you when it's all said and done?
I hope that they can remember somehow that I made them laugh or feel good.
And you get to the pearly gates. What do you want God to say?
Welcome home, my son, because I am truly son of God, as we all are sons and daughters of God. Simple truth. Remember who you are.
You got anything else for me?
I hope that this venture continues and you get some more interesting
People?
interviewers.
Yeah.
But yes, I had a good time and I appreciate you thinking of me to come and sit and just have a nice conversation. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel that we did. And yeah, spending more time. with you and your family, and continuing on with my life in the best me I can be.
So I think we did have a great conversation. I'm not sure I'm going to get many people more interesting than you, but I just wanted to say thank you for doing it and for being so willing to do it, to let you know that I love you, because that's part of what I'm trying to do in my life moving forward, is to worry about those things that are most important, and forget about the shit that happened in the past, and moving forward and doing things that I want to do with the people I want to do it, and letting them know how much they mean to me. And I love you very much. So thank you. I'm done. We'll see you next time. Peace.